Welcome to Swappin Stories. We did it. I made it back this is week 3. Like, you don't understand. This is a commitment. You have no idea. This is amazing. Okay, so this week we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you, because today is the first day that I'm doing episodes at 3 p.m. every day, audio-wise. So for my audio podcast. So what I'm doing is I'm putting together show 6, because the first 5 were basically working out the kinks and getting everything, the system together as far as how I was going to make it happen every week. I had to have a system in place, and I had to have a sound person that I had an understanding with, that, okay, if I get it to you by this time, then you'll get it to me by, I can have it published by this time. And unfortunately, I'm probably not going to, well, no, I mean, for a fact, I'm not going to get it to you. I'm sorry, Chris. I'm working on it. It's going to be a little late, but I am working on, as soon as I'm putting together the next 3 episodes in batches, which I learned from Damian Farnsworth as far as how he does rough draft, which is smart, because, or at least I need it to be, smart for me, because I got to work through, making sure that it's a complete story, especially with the audio podcast. When you listen in, I want you to be able to get something out of it, and I want it to behoove you. You use that word today, have you? I want it to behoove you to go back and start at the beginning and work your way through. They're bite size. I'm keeping them as short and simple. It's not, well, yeah, I mean, simple and concise as possible. Now, to some folks, I haven't really clarified the Swappin stories, like how does that tie in, but I'm getting to that. And so thanks, Fred, for noticing that. And I promise you that it'll all make sense in the end. But right now, what I need to do is I need to walk my actual, customer through what I've learned. Like, I've spent a lot of time studying, researching, understanding, whatever, however you want to put it, but tackling a problem, and I need to be able to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. Otherwise, my assistance in the back end isn't really going to help you if you are not my customer. So everything I'm doing with my various podcasts, audio podcasts, the live broadcast 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m., even though there's no viewers, I'm still doing it because, some people do come back and watch it later, so that's awesome. And it's on demand. I mean, I'm here on demand, like 8:30 to 9 Eastern time, I'm going to be doing this. So, but I understand that, this is a generalization, but 99% of people they prefer on demand content, which I'm the exact same way. What's it called? The True Detective 2 started last night, and I'm pretty much I recorded it, but I'm probably going to wait and actually binge watch it in the future, because I largely binge watched season 1, but I had to wait for the last 3 episodes, and it killed me. So I have the patience of a 2-year-old in a candy store who hadn't had candy yet. And oh yeah, anyway, yeah, I got so what I want to do is show you in this episode kind of the process that I'm using, how I'm putting together my episodes. Okay, so that's going to require me to take my face primarily off the screen, and I know that's going to be hard for you, but just buck up, buddy. Now I need to share my screen, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to be using GarageBand, and I use GarageBand. I have a Mac, iMac or whatever, and then I'm using GarageBand. I have the Blue Yeti, which I think it was under $100, maybe it was 120 at the most, and that came with some not real good headphones, but some headphones, as well as pop filter, I guess it is. It's kind of puts on, it's round, and it's like just some netting or something, I don't know, I mean, like a screen or whatever that goes in front of it. So anyway, that's my basic setup that I'm using, and I have done my best to minimize the amount of reflective surfaces, i.e. you don't want it to sound to be able to bounce off of things. It's going to echo, and it's going to sound bad when you're creating an audio podcast, right? So let me go ahead and head over. All right. So here is the interaction that I have, or the interface. That's what I was trying to find. The interface for GarageBand. And let me just show you a couple of things. That's not really relevant for what we're doing. I don't use it, or I'm not using it right now. Oops. Okay, good. It is sharing, right? Okay, so I think I'm sharing it and you can see it now. So this is the back end of GarageBand. You'll notice that this is clicked. This is like a solo basically. So I'm using different tracks. I'm laying down tracks, if you will, for all my rapper friends, to put together the story that I'm going to tell, and I'm trying to keep it under 6 minutes. If I can keep it even shorter, but actually have the entirety of the message come across, then I want to do that. Okay, so what we'll do is right here, you have the music, and this is just like the little intro. Let me show. I'm guessing that you can hear that as well. So then this is the next piece. So what this is this is what I've recorded as far as my voiceover, right? And I just basically I'm not going off of a script, which you can probably tell, and then I'm writing out, or I'm typing out the transcript after the fact. That's another reason that I'm trying to keep them short, is I'm trying to make sure that each time I have the transcript immediately. So let me go ahead and stop sharing that for a moment, and because I want to share a different screen, and let's head over to Chrome. Go ahead and present. Okay, so I just want to show you real quick that over on jasonhobbsllc.com, if you go to the audio podcasts, you'll see that the most recent one is What Comes with a Story, and that already has the written transcript done. And the reason that I'm able to do that, or part of the reason, is because I am keeping it as short as I can, or as concise as I can, really. Okay, so I'm back. All right, so let's go back over to GarageBand so I can just walk you through, because I'm not going to go through it, finish this, even though I'm going to have to do it once I'm done with the live show. And once again, I apologize to my sound person, Chris Wright, and I'll link to Chris in the show notes for this as well. So if you need a sound person, he's really good. Just don't get him to where he has to push back my work at all. Okay, as long as you do that, we're cool. Otherwise, we may have to throw down. So to be clear, there's a couple of tips that I've picked up that have made this a lot easier for me. Number one is accepting iTunes. And what I mean by that is when you're in iTunes, you have the various podcasts, and you can, obviously you can subscribe to different podcasts, which it's listing the ones that I'm subscribed to here. You'll see under the podcast, and then when you click on it, you'll see that there are a couple of episodes, and in some instances less, that are and in some instances more, that are available there. And what that means is those are the podcast episodes where I downloaded the file, the MP3 file, so that I can then use that file in my recordings as well. And this isn't fair use or any of that. The point is that I'm continuing the conversation. It's just like if Copyblogger writes a blog post on copyblogger.com on the blog there, and I go and write a response piece to it because for whatever reason, I could be expanding on it, I could be trying to disprove it, whatever the point is, but he's stimulated conversation, right? And that's a good thing. It's the same way, and that's acceptable within the written, but not so much, at least to begin with, in the audio and the video. And me personally, I think it's a great thing. They wouldn't allow you to download the podcast episodes if you weren't going to be able to use them in GarageBand to carry on the conversation. Now, obviously, no one's going to, allow you to just, trample over their brand or their trademark and all that, or dilute their brand and, steal, identities or whatever. But they are going to allow you to carry on a conversation and, take the kind of let them put it their way, so to speak, their idea. So let me show you real quick what I'm babbling about. All right, so this is a piece, and this is Damian Farnsworth on the lead, and I do set it up, and I'm going to link to them in the show notes as well for the podcast, and then also for this live broadcast. I mean, I have no problem linking to those guys. But in this one, Damian is he's explaining the content syndication process to his show co-host. Hey, enough. Excuse me. My dogs they get riled up anytime you talk about the lead, because they're dogs. They don't. Anyway. Okay. So let me go ahead and play this. All right. And exactly. So it's called republishing, repurposing, syndication, content syndication, however you want to put it. But it's a really smart strategy in as much as if you have good enough content that resonates enough with your audience, with that customer of yours, it's helpful to them. So they are drawn to it, so to speak. If you have that, then all you have to do is get it in front of people. So you can kind of approach your content like the Indians approached the buffalo, which was they would take one buffalo and they would get as much out of it as humanly possible before they had to go and hunt another buffalo. They didn't just throw it to the parts of it to the side if they could use it. Tendons for this and hooves for that, and et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, they ate all the meat, and they use the hides, et cetera. Same thing with your content marketing. What Damian's describing is really, really smart, because if you can come up with content on your website that is great, where you spill blood, so to speak, on the page, then you're going to be able to repurpose that and syndicate that onto bigger sites, onto where the audience, the traffic numbers are just, astronomical, or especially astronomical compared to your actual website, especially when you're starting out, right? So anytime that you can do that, you're going to want to do that. And you want to make sure that you use the canonical link as far as back to your site, but Google's getting better at understanding that. And we'll get into that a little bit further in future episodes. But as far as content syndication, it's really important that you understand where it all starts from. And that's not one piece of content that's really, really helpful to your customer. If you're just throwing out this or that, or just paying $5 for a 500-word article to publish on your website, then you're not going to be able to syndicate that. It's not, I'm sorry, but they could go and pay the $5 to get that done, right? So why would Huffington Post or Copyblogger or Rainmaker.fm or, Search Engine Journal or TechCrunch or etc. Time Magazine or Wall Street Journal, why would any of them need to use that? You have to come up with something that is helpful. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to become a novelist or, an author overnight or anything like that. What you have to do is be able to tell your story, and your customer. So communicate with your customer through your content. So let's say that one thing that I've been advising folks, and here's a good example. One thing that I'm doing is the live broadcast, right? And so I'm talking about 4 different days, 30 minutes a day, and I'm preparing for these, even though you probably like, yeah, right. I am actually preparing. I'm reading and and so forth. And I'm getting better at the process, but obviously that's why they say to start, because your first ones are going to suck. So, and that's also why I heard, I can't remember who said it. It's exactly off the top of my head, but somebody basically said, look, make your mistakes while everyone isn't watching. because it's good, because right now I'm making mistakes all over the place and nobody's watching. Now, you may come back and catch the video, and Anna, I do appreciate you listening to this. She's one of my customers. She's fantastic. So she'll probably, feels bad for me and be like, oh, well, let me at least skim through this. But for the most part, no one's listening, right? So the whole point of that was, it's a process, a system, so to speak, a cycle, however you want to put it, but it has to have at its very core, its intent has to be that you are looking to help your customer. You care about your customer. You're looking to build something that's helpful for them. So for you, you need to tap into the lifetime value of your customer. You need to be able to do it online. You need to focus on monthly recurring revenue for your business. Well, if you're doing that, then that's what this show is. That's what I'm working to help you with, right? So I'm talking about the tools, I'm talking about the process, I'm talking about the support, etc., that I've used and that I'm using and passing on to my customers, as far as to start to grow organically your monthly recurring revenue, which is going to allow you to really drive your lifetime value of your customer. And that's just the smart way to focus. I mean, it was just like in the very first episode of the audio, my audio podcast, it's profit or education for your business. What should you focus on? And spoiler alert, but you should focus on both. Because by focusing on educating your customer, you're actually focusing on revenue. Because if you're constantly helping your customer, you're going to have them share you with their friends, and that's where referrals and word of mouth can come in. But then at the same time, if you're constantly educating your customer, you're going to be good at educating the strangers that could become your customers. So they don't know you, you don't know them, but then you help them. You educate them on something that's important to them. If you're a plumber, something about that. If you're a photographer, something about that. If you're an accountant, something about filing your taxes, or how to prepare for audits or whatever. But if you are, or all of the above, because everything, if you're an accountant, if you're a photographer, if you're an online marketer or online marketing consultant, or whatever you'd call me, a storyteller, then the point is, let me go ahead and I got to ranting and I wasn't even looking at you, so my apologies. So let me chase this down. Regardless of what you do, for your customer, then it's still going to happen over the course of a timeline. There's going to be a starting point and an ending point of that relationship. In some instances, it may literally be a case where you're going to have a start and end, where you pick back up, where the next time that it ends, and then picks back up, and then right? So if you're focused on educating your customer all the way through that, and you say, okay, they're all going to start here for the most part, and they're going to need to know this, and this along their path, right? If you're educating your customer, then it's naturally you're basically going to grow your own, I guess is the best way to put it. The way that I'm focusing on my customers is I'm not so worried about going and getting everyone else's customers. If they're getting online help with monthly recurring revenue and lifetime value of their customers, whether the person's kind of quantifying it exactly that way or not, but if they already have help, I'm not going to try and take them away. What I want to do is educate you to get you online. Because if you're now online, whereas you were not before, then that's rising tide lifts all boats, right? So I brought you online and I've educated you. And the idea being that you're probably going to be most trusting of me, at least to begin with, unless I screw it up, right? So as long as I, deal with you with integrity, I don't lie to you, I'm, upfront and honest, etc., then you're going to be, there's a switching cost, right? If you for switching away, but a lot of people consider it loyalty, etc., which maybe it is, but that's not a bad thing, right? As long as I'm helping your business grow, then the idea is, yeah, I want you to keep you around. I mean, I saw in the authority forum, somebody talked about, and it was a relatively recent piece. And Sonia Simone replied, which I can't get her to reply to anything in there, but she can reply to this guy. But he did write like 8,000 words. So, kudos to him for getting her attention. But one of the points that she made was, hey, if you're accusing us, not really, just if you're saying, if you're asking, are we trying to keep you around with Rainmaker platform? Well, yeah, we want you to use Rainmaker forever, is what she was saying. It's basically, look, if you don't succeed, then they don't succeed. The customer doesn't succeed, then Copyblogger Media doesn't succeed either, which makes total sense. I mean, it's always makes total sense to me. And it's one reason that I bristle when people are like, oh, well, why are you always talking? You're trying to steal their authority or whatever. And that's the farthest thing from the case. I'm giving them authority. The better that I do, then the better that it reflects on them, right? So if Copyblogger Media is saying, hey, this is how, we do what we do, and this is what makes us successful, that's great. But then if they can use additional examples, and look, Jason Hobbs, he used, our Rainmaker platform. He, just basically does exactly what we showed him how to do with setting up the funnels, or he's calling them educational paths. He's a hippie. Just the educational path and all that. But he's largely using our advice. He's an active member in the authority forums. He, bought the showrunner course, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, if he's doing it and he's doing it well, why would that be a positive for them? And it is. It's a total positive, because if I'm successful, that makes Copyblogger Media that much more successful. They're not doing it for me. They're not sending me any audience. If they were, I would have viewers right now. However, I am still getting better at what I'm doing, which is talking with you. Because the more that we have a conversation, the more times that I actively do it, it's iterative. The more times that I go through it, the better I get at it, especially when you complete the process and then you use the findings to start the next process or the next time through. And so you're just constantly evolving and improving the system, the process that you're using for achieving these results, this outcome. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So that goes both ways. You hear a lot of people say that, well, you're beating your head against the wall because it's not working. And I've done that and told people that as well. But it's also true the other way, which is if you're doing something, i.e. Copyblogger Media does it this way, they have this system that they use, the online conveyor belt system, or whatever. Brian Green just completely, he texted me and completely threw my train of thought. I'm trying to read it upside down and continue talking to you, and obviously I failed miserably at that. What was I saying? I can't play it back either, and I got 6 minutes left. So I was ranting. I know I had been ranting for a while about Copyblogger, and how if their customers are successful, then they're more successful, just like with me. I mean, anyone that I draw into my audience that becomes a part of my community, that decides to become a customer, paying customer, that decides to become a repeat customer and then a brand ambassador. I was trying to take you all the way through the educational path, and I started too close, so I'm like dancing here. So But that's the point. Like, as you come closer, so you're out here, right? You're out here far at the tip of my finger, and that's when you're a stranger, because I don't know you, you don't know me. And then you become aware of me. So now I'm an attractive stranger, right? And then from there, you're going to become a part of my audience. And then you become a part of my community. And then you become a paying customer, repeat customer, brand ambassador. Right? So that's the educational path. If it's been working for Copywalker Media for all this time, why on earth would it not continue to work, especially if you're continuing to improve it and evolve it? It will. That's the point. If the same results happen based on these actions, don't keep doing those actions and expect different results, right? Positive way, negative way. Doesn't matter which way you look at it, it's still applicable. So, all right, Brian. So I asked him, I sent him an email, and I meant to, he's my friend from high school. He's actually probably my only friend. I think there's like 3 of them. They're an endangered species. Anybody that is quote unquote publicly Jason Hobbs's friend, whew, you guys, there's like 1 or 2 of you. I understand why you went into hiding. But we've been kind of playing tag back and forth, and I had I sent him a text today out of the blue, and it was basically, I meant to take the first, or I should have taken the first line, or not the first line, but a line from Taylor Swift's Bad Blood. And I was like, my question was, do we have bad blood now? Question mark. And I should have said, how does the line go? Baby, now we got bad blood, question mark. Because then you just take the line and put a question to it. But he was annoyed. It was pretty funny. That's a definite glimpse into the mind of Jason. All right. So I have to finish up the new audio podcast that'll be out later today. It might be a little bit late. I'm doing my best to get it down and get it locked in, so to speak. As far as, for me, the biggest issue is just creating it. Like, when people talk about, well, you have to get started because you never know until you start moving, they could not be more right. Like, the biggest thing that I learned last week, and I learned a lot last week, but the biggest thing that I learned was you got to start. Like, I keep telling myself that my list is at 1. I think I have I take that back. I think it's like 3 subscribers, and I emailed them last night. I was one of them. there was actually like 4 or 5 emails that went out, but 2 of them came to me because I had tested it with 2 different email addresses. And once you send out a welcome email, which is what I was testing, it was an auto trigger welcome email. You can't delete the thing. So I'll be emailing myself twice. My open rates are through the roof. That was a joke because I'm opening, but anyway. If you're probably already gone. If I had to explain it to you, you've probably already left, and maybe you're just laughing harder at me now. But all right, so I will be back tomorrow, and I'm gonna get that the next 3 episodes out the door of the audio podcast. So that's today, tomorrow, and Wednesday's episodes. Man, I tell you what, like, no one's listening to it, but it's like, I put my name on it, I'm putting it out, I'm busting my butt. So, I take it very personally as far as the content itself. Like, I'm not worried about, because no one's listening. I don't have an audience. I'm looking to build that audience, right? So I can't be really focused on the end results at the beginning. I have to focus on the process. I have to focus on being in the moment, so to speak, and really coming up with something that's helpful, because there's a lot of people who would benefit. Their business will benefit from having more monthly recurring revenue, or driving the lifetime value, and they need someone that's actually going to focus on that versus selling them a bunch of different analytics or KPIs, key performance indicators, or whatever the case is. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that 50 billion people liked something or shared it on Facebook. If no one buys anything, that does not matter. If we had 600% of people that showed up here that we put a pop-up in front of their face, they decided to join us. Well, okay, how many of them buy? You know what? At the end of the day, all of those other ones are noise. There's so many analytics, so many KPIs or whatever that people focus on, and it's all noise to the one that actually counts, which is revenue. And I like quantifying that kind of two ways. So I'm focusing on two KPIs, which is monthly recurring revenue, let's be very clear, and lifetime value. Because I believe that it's a long-term relationship. You're marrying your customers. You're not having a ton of one-night stands with them. So I will leave you with that. So, stop just using and abusing all your customers. You need to start marrying them. So, because it's a long-term relationship, and you all understand that people are going to go through phases, so to speak, or, they're going to grow over the course of your relationship or their relationship with your business, right? So they're going to start out as kind of a noob, and then they'll get, a little bit more intermediate, and then they'll get, eventually they'll become a ninja or, whatever. But there's a growth process. So I finally got kind of decent going at the very end. It's like, as I'm signing off, I'm like, oh yeah, let's drop a couple knowledge bombs real quick. And then, so I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully if you're still watching, thanks, Mom. I really love you. So, all right. See you tomorrow. Peace.